Hey everyone, it's Jekro here, and today we're going to be putting a Japanese Fender from the 80s back together. I got this guitar from my friend Frank Bonalfo, who does bass repairs and sometimes plays bass for my band. He said it had been sitting in his basement for about 15 years, and the owner was probably not coming back for it. The guitar has been modified quite a bit, but I was able to find the serial number on the back of the neck, which gave me an idea of what it was. The tuners on the neck seem like they're the originals, and they look like Goto tuners from 1987. I don't believe that this is the original body though, as there isn't a cutout for the Floyd to sit in. The locking nut was also removed and replaced by a regular guitar nut. I also did some digging on the pickups. I did forget to take a picture of the serial number for the pickups, but I did not want to take the pickguard out, and you'll see why later, so I just kind of did a little bit of guessing. Lace sensor pickups have been around for quite a while, and these ones are a bit weird since they say Fender lace on them. But going off of an article that I read about the lace sensor pickups, I'm going to say that based on the wire colors, I believe that they're from the late 80s to early 90s. Since the guitar has been sitting in a case collecting dust, it's definitely a bit dirty, but it also didn't seem like it was handled with care, as it's covered in a lot of scuffs and a lot of scratches. Because of the amount, I had to break out the drill in order to really polish the body and the pickguard. I went ahead and taped the pickups so that I wouldn't hit them with the drill just to be safe, and later cleaned them by hand. If you want to know more about the lace sensor pickups, there's going to be a link in the description so you can read a little bit more about them. The back of the neck and the headstock had been sanded quite a bit, and I think this gave the wood a bit of a discolored look, but I thought it was just grime, so I spent a little too much time on it before I realized it just was not going to come off. The neck plate was also very shiny after it was cleaned. Now that everything is shiny and new, it's time to put everything back together. I started with the back piece that the tremolo springs connect to, and I had never done this before, and so I did make the mistake of not knowing how far to screw it in, but I did eventually get it fixed after I put the strings on. The saddle is up next, and once that was in, I could start setting up the springs. This was probably my least favorite part, and I did end up launching quite a few springs across the room. I later learned that there's a trick you're supposed to do with a screwdriver to make it easier, but I don't think it would have been as funny. The pickups had a few wires that were soldered wrong or weren't actually soldered at all, so I went ahead and resoldered those. I was able to find a diagram online in order to figure out where everything goes, which was pretty nice. Then I spent about 500 years trying to put the pickguard back into place and feed the ground wire to the back of the guitar. With the pickguard in place, next up is the input jack. My very big hands kept getting in the way of the soldering process, but I did resolder the jack and then screw it back into place. I also went ahead and resoldered the ground wire to where it was originally. Can't forget the Strat buttons. Putting the neck on for the first time was pretty easy, and then I noticed the tuners were a bit loose, so I went ahead and tightened those up. The guitar is ready for some strings now, but I gotta keep that workspace clean. And here's some nice shots of how shiny and new everything looks. The pickguard still had some scratches that weren't coming off, but it definitely looked a lot better. Now I can put on a fresh set of Ernie Ball 7-gauge strings. If you want to learn how to put strings on a Strat, you're in luck. I have a very beautiful in-depth video on how to do so. The link is in the description. Once the strings were on, I realized there was a slight issue. And by slight issue, I mean an action I could probably slide my hand underneath. This is when I had a light bulb moment go off. When I had taken apart the guitar, I had found a small piece of wood that kind of fell out of it, and it kind of looked important, so I decided to hang on to it. And I had realized now that it was in fact a shim piece. And then this started the part where I had to take the neck off about 4 different times. The wood piece did adjust the action issue, but I didn't think the piece was thick enough or wide enough to really help all the way. So I tried 2 picks on top of each other to see what that would do. That just made the strings basically sit flat on the fretboard, so I decided to remove those. Then I tried 1 pick to see what that would do, and that seemed like the right answer. I did have a lot of people tell me that apparently it is illegal to use picks as shim pieces or else the guitar will explode or something. But the pick was there to help me kind of figure out what width I needed for a shim piece, and it was the only thing I had on hand at the time. And I did replace the shim piece so the guitar would not combust or suffer eternally. The action was still a bit high, and if you haven't noticed by now, the nut is also not on the guitar very well. The nut is sitting pretty high up since it's not the original one and was sort of just glued on, which is adding to the issue of the action. I was able to get it set up pretty close though after adjusting the saddles, so I decided to just kind of call it good for now. After the neck fiasco, I saw that one of the pickups was not staying in place. It was originally really high up, so I had lowered it a little bit, but now it was just rattling all over the place. I decided to take the pickguard out with the strings on, which was stupid since I ripped the ground wire out while doing so. This took me like a million years to get soldered back into place, so I'm definitely not doing that again. The reason the pickup was rattling around was because the wax wasn't long enough to keep it from moving. And before you say anything, I do understand why there was wax instead of a spring, but I'm not a wax store and I didn't have any wax laying around, so I went ahead and just used springs from another pickup. With the back plate in place, it's time to see how it sounds. I think for my first time putting a guitar back together, I did a pretty good job, but let me know what you think in the comments. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the video, but this time it's round 2. And finally, the finished product. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching!